This is Synthesis TV, keeping you on the edge of technology and business.
We are notoriously allergic to buzzwords here at Synthesis, but some of them are important. And what we need to understand is, what is CCI? What is a contact center of intelligence? How does it benefit? How does it benefit businesses? And why has it become a very, very important item to focus on? Joining me this afternoon is Thembela Khedama, who is the head of digitisation at Standard Bank, as well as Archana Arakkal from Synthesis. A very good day to you both. How are you doing?
Good, thanks, Howard.
Good day, Howard. Doing good. And yourself?
I'm good, thank you very, very much. So we wanted to try and unpack this, because there's so many buzzwords in the industry, and what we found is that instead of them making technology more accessible, in fact, what it does is it pushes technology further away from business. And what we know for sure is that technology is all about business. It's all about people. It's all about understanding what drives businesses and what drives customer behavior. So, Thembela, if I can just start with you, just give us a little bit of background, where you sit within Standard Bank, and how you have come to go on this journey.
Thank you, Howard. Where I sit, my portfolio, I look after digitization, client experience, and within risk execution. What I actually look after are the processes for our retail bank. Digitizing the manual processes, but in that process, my key mandate, it is to improve customer experience and also to minimize risk, because manual processes can control it, or there could also be, some risk embedded in our manual processes. So when I digitize, I need to ensure that risk is minimized while enhancing customer experience and ensure, some level of governance and integrity within our processes as Standard Bank. Yeah.
Okay, so it's all about digitization. It's all about customer experience, balancing that against risk, and in fact, not really balancing it against risk, in fact, using technology to minimize risk. Archie, on your side, that makes sense. Is that the perfect customer?
It's the perfect use case, at least, right? Because you definitely want to solve those big problems.
What are you saying? He's not the perfect customer.
He is the perfect customer, Shame. Thembela has been great.
All right. So tell us, why is that the perfect use case?
So I think something that we've come to learn is, solving a problem is not as simple as being able to drop technology and expecting it to work. It requires a streamlined experience between people, processes, and technology. And often we have to start with, getting people and processes aligned before we can actually start dropping technology into this. And I think something that, Thembela does quite well in that domain is, being able to align the people and the processes so that we can actually get the technology to be built for those people and processes. And it's such a key component, especially in the risk domain. And unless you've got that sort of streamlined view around those three aspects, you don't necessarily have a good solution either. Technology on its own will never work, and neither will people and process in isolation. So I think that's why it's the best sort of customer and the best sort of solution to go about building, because it encompasses all three of them.
So where would you have started if you were the customer in this case? Would you say, let's look at our own processes, let's look at our own people, our customers as people? Where do you begin?
Yeah, and I think in this particular situation, right, it's important to start with the people and the process, understand where the burning points are. And I think in this particular scenario, and Thembela, you can speak specifically around, why we built what we built. I'll let you speak through that challenge that you wanted to unpack. But in this particular scenario, it was ideal for us to start with the people and the processes, because by understanding the people and the processes and being able to map out what that looks like, we were able to identify what do we need to solve for? How can we actually possibly solve for this particular solution? And then only do we pick the technology that can help us to solve the entire solution. Thembela, I don't know if you want to mention the challenge
I
that
want to go exactly. Thembela, where did you start? Did you start by identifying a problem, or is it more broad where you say, well, I just know that we need to get on this train?
Thank you. For us, the problem was we were not necessarily meeting our requirements as expected, from the regulator. So it was a reactive approach, right? Okay. Initially. And I think where we actually, began, or the genesis of our solution and idea began from, what does the regulator require from us? And they said, we require for you to ensure that you service your customer well enough, and you actually outline, disclaim, all the rules that that could be embedded in a sale of a product or the servicing of a client. You need to ensure that your customers understand that, and for us to be in a position to say, look, we actually tell our customers every time we interact with them, we outline the rules, the regulations, what they need to know. So we began there, and where now I think the problem was, as the business grows, we grow our customer base, and we do this manually. So we would now have to tell them, the disclaimers. We had to tell them, all the acts that are, required, or for each product. And as they grow, or we grow our business, our clients also grow. And then what we do from a quality assurance, like making sure that we tell them we can't handle the growth or the volumes that comes with that growth. So now we needed to introduce a technology that can manage that scaling. And that's where, Archie and team came in to actually assist us in actually identifying the right processes or the right technologies that can help us handle that scale. So it's almost like an integrated process where we looked at the requirements, and then we looked at how do we service then our clients, and then they are growing as we're servicing them, brilliantly. So if they grow, how do we then, meet that demand? We have to introduce a process, a technology, some AI that can help us, with the automation journey, with handling some of the manual tasks, ensuring that we minimize the human error in that process, and ultimately, our goal of meeting the regulatory requirements
it's so interesting met. It's so interesting that it started from almost a regulatory push, but actually then it becomes so much bigger than that. Archie, will you take us through how you approached it from a technology perspective? Because I know AWS factors into it here as well. Take us through a little bit of that.
Sure. So I think the first thing to remember is, especially the AWS world is constantly growing. There's several new products that are released on a day-to-day basis. And we started this journey, Thembela, correct me if I'm wrong, but about maybe 2.5 years ago at this point. And the landscape, the AWS landscape that we leveraged off was significantly different from the landscape that is available now. And how we started off the project was to work in small iterations. So firstly, let's look at the product suite that's at our disposal, and then from there, iterate on a small subset of that data in order to identify how well it performs. Granted, there's quite a few challenges that we encountered during the process, and we'll go through that in a little bit more detail later. But the point is to iterate on it on a small scale, so that eventually when we get to a large scale, we do have enough proof points to say that this is something we want to position going forward. So by iterating on smaller subsets, it also gives us the ability to scale, as Thembela mentioned, because now we're working with smaller
one of
context.
the big challenges.
Exactly. So working in those small little iterations until we get to a point that we're comfortable and then move to the next level is how we manage to navigate, because it is quite a complex domain, and we'll speak about the challenges a bit later. But by working in those small isolated scenarios and small data sets, we were able to firstly identify what are the real pain points that we're going to uncover during this process. So from a technology point of view, even though things are, supposedly easy to integrate, it's not always the case. It's quite a complex domain, and by working in those small subsets, we're able to identify what those pain points are going to be. From there, working iteratively to firstly solve those small problems, and then kind of go through the process of expanding into large data sets. And that's actually the best way to go about doing it. And while doing that, still keeping the pulse on what's available in the AWS suite.
What makes this particular area particularly complicated?
Yeah, and it's such a interesting space for me, to be completely honest, because it's touching on the customer base. It's touching on several different databases, different data platforms, human behavior. The concept of quality assurance is such an involved process, because you're taking human behavior, you're taking human language, and you're trying to interpret whether this is something according to a scale of 1 to 100, which is now you're trying to automate that process, which was previously such a subjective process. And add on top of that previously it was strung together by several different processes in order to achieve that. And that's what makes it quite complex.
So Thembela, how did you deal with the legacy, with the legacy aspect of it? That must have been a little bit of a challenge.
Yes, Howard, that was a challenge, right? And I think what we need to understand, and what we have accepted as a business and across different business units, is that we will not get rid of our legacy processes. What we needed to be comfortable with is a hybrid model. And like Archie mentioned, so this use case is actually the automation of quality assurance. Quality assurance is manual, and there are like a quality assurance agent would move from one system to an Excel spreadsheet to another system, to another system. So there's not just legacy systems involved, but just, iteration between systems that are not integrated. So now if you're going to introduce AWS, as a platform so that this process runs through, you must take into account that your data or the agent on the other end of the line, they are interacting with a client, maybe through AWS Connect. From there, that data could be stored in a different internal system, and that data could now be analyzed or processed, somewhere else. Again, legacy. And then, if you're going to now introduce firstly, maybe you're going to run your solution through AWS, that you can't just plug in from AWS Connect that only deals with the telephone conversation between an agent and a client. You now need to deal with a system that identifies or labels calls. You have to deal with now a system that would actually push some of the voice disclaimers, that are automated, that the client would listen to, but that doesn't come from AWS, it comes from another system. So what we were very comfortable with is a hybrid, solution and a hybrid approach, knowing that we're not going to get rid of legacy. We would love to, but there's no business that's transformed well enough.
Archie, this must be something you deal with all the time. You can't literally go in and, you'd love to, I have no doubt, because it's easier. But the reality is that's not how businesses function. They can't afford it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think something I've had to learn, and Thembela has said it so well, but being able to respect what exists and working with what exists, because we can't get rid of it. We actually can't. And we have to work within the parameters that we have in order to become successful, because what does exist has been working for all these years. Granted, in order to scale, we need to add on top of it. But we do need to have a good way of being able to integrate existing systems as well as the new tech that we're bringing into the mix. It's not feasible to rewrite everything every time. You know, it's a business. There's business as usual. People have day jobs that they have to conduct as well. So we have to take that into account. We can't ignore it.
So going into this project, Archie, was this, if I had to ask you then what success would look like, and now where it has been a successful project, is that the same?
I think we've moved the target quite a few times. Thembela will laugh at me for saying this, but we have definitely had to move the target quite a few times. And I think that's the journey of it, right? Because unless we're willing to accept the fact that we are going to learn new things in this domain as we progress. And that's why it's so important to work in small little subsets, because that is the nature of the business. AI is very new.
You're proving it, and you're expanding it and proving it.
Exactly. And we have to keep changing that, and we have to find our North Star amongst all of this. So at the end of the day, you know, the business requirement did not change. That's always been the same from the beginning, but the details have changed quite significantly. When I started off, you know, at least what was put forward was creating a model that would be able to do all of this. But as we got further into the detail, we realized that we can't, do anything unless we also get the processes and the people kind of aligned to the structure as well. So we need to, build specific, technical nuances around those elements as well if we want to make this thing work end to end. And I think the journey has taught us quite a lot during this process. Thembela has learned quite a lot during this process as well, in terms of what we started off with and what we've finally achieved. And the definition of success, although the solution itself may have changed over time, we still did work towards that North Star. And that's what's quite important to identify and work towards, as opposed to the technical details.
So Thembela, from a business perspective, would you say that you got what you needed, even if it's somewhat not exactly as you might have thought it would be when you went into the process?
Yeah, definitely. I can say that, Howard. That's I think the biggest learning here is the people. From all fronts. There is the agents who who interact with clients, how they maintain the business as usual, or how they adopt to assist AI and its advantages is quite critical. There's also
sorry, I'm interrupting you, but you've got you on the digitization side with a vision. Right. Then you've got your agents who are at the coalface every day dealing with clients. Okay. Yes. And I'm just trying to picture the number of personalities dealing with. Right.
And then you have the quality assurance team as well, that now almost audits what the agents are doing. You have to get the buy-in from them, and you have to get the right processes from them, because whatever they give you, you have to interpret it. And Archie, does that brilliantly, right? And map it out so that now we can automate the entire pipeline. So our vision initially, like Archie was mentioning now, that the goal post would almost, change, or the vision would move from this to that. It would expand. I think we grew. So what I would say is we might have started with just one idea of automating, but we might have not known what that means. From where we are today, I think
that's a concept. It just starts off as a concept, but it's not that it's not concrete yet. It's not concretized.
Yeah. And where we are today, from that initial vision, I think there was so much growth, but also I think we exposed our processes, and we've improved our processes along the way, outside of just bringing this automated solution. I think we have achieved at least what we had set out, and we wouldn't have done that without the people. As much as now we are achieving it through the machine, the people were critical component of that solution, to a point where I think what Synthesis built, it had the human in the loop component, which again speaks to integrating humans within this loop, to continuously improve this model, and to continuously, improve our results as well. So I'll certainly, say that we have achieved our goal ultimately, and we realize that people are at the center of achieving that.
I guess because rather than imposing a solution on people who might well and justifiably resist it because it doesn't function within their normal protocols or style or culture or whatever it would be, it's a much more difficult process to have it adopted. So Archie, a lot of this was based on, obviously you'd go through these types of processes, and then some of the technology was an AWS based technology that you utilized for this. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. And I think AWS by itself, it is great. The tool sets that are available was wonderful, but quite a crucial component, and it's not just me, it's the entire team, was to be able to map out the people elements, being able to map out the process element. And we had to work with existing technologies as well, right? So having the ability to integrate what exists into what the AWS suite has to offer was quite a crucial component of all of this.
Thembela, if I can just to wrap it up, what is the most, if you look back on this project, what is the thing that excites you most about what you went through and what you've achieved here for Standard Bank?
I think for me, what excited me was the anticipation, prolonged one, where we pitched this at senior executive level. And for them, it's important that we comply. It's above everything, because compliance translates to trust. Because if your customers or clients, they know that you're someone who complies, you're someone who does what needs to be done, there's that trust. So it excited our execs. And then we were weaving through our challenges. And that excitement, it appeared as if, it was dropping, because now there was like so much time taken to actually bring this solution. But we were, encountering the challenges of systems, of people, of integration. When we landed it, we landed it and we went live this month. We took it to Exco, and positive, response. Like it was what they were, what they're expecting, but also that excitement that they had never really died. Instead, now they have full confidence in at least our capability, and what we can do to ensure the safety of our customers. So I think for me, it was just that buy-in and that anticipation from our senior leadership.
Archie, on your side, what was the most exciting thing for you in this process?
I think for me specifically is, being able to design the solution so it actually works, which was, it was touch and go for some time, Thembela knows.
Don't say that. You were confident the whole way through. There was never a doubt in your mind. What are you even talking about?
It was touch and go, right? It's a whole new domain. This context of CCI and being able to build out an automated quality assurance solution is massive. It's, I think Standard Bank is probably the first to have done it and, get it to this state as well. So it's quite a big task. It's not an easy task either. And for me, the excitement is the fact that we were able to build the solution and it works. It works, and it's, currently it's been rolled out.
And you had a customer
customer
who was prepared to
exactly.
take the chance, go there.
Exactly. And I think as someone from the technology front, it's so great to have a client that is willing to take those risks and try and be ahead of the curve. It's quite, especially in the risk space, it's unheard of, you know, finding people who are willing to take that next level. So Thembela and the team has been great in that regard, you know, giving us the opportunity to build a solution out. And from a technology front, we think we can do everything, but, you know, putting into practice is where the rubber hits the road. So affording us that opportunity to do this and actually prove that tech does have its place in this big world was quite great for us.
And amazing to see how tech has a space in this world if it serves business needs and it takes people into account. And that was the interesting thing for me, certainly about this discussion. Guys, we are out of time, but very, very interesting. Thembela Khedama and Archana Arakkal, thank you for spending the time with me, for taking us through this process, which I think sounds like a absolutely fascinating one. And I look forward to the next time that we get together on the next project and we see what you guys have managed to achieve. That's it from us. I'm Howard Feldman. I am head of marketing and communications at Synthesis. If you want to be in touch with us, please reach out, ask us your questions, get involved, make suggestions as to what you would like to hear from us, and we will do our darndest to bring you those episodes. Have a fantastic day. God bless.